Welcome everyone to the May SFS Community Call in 2022. It's really nice to be here. I hope you've all been enjoying the sun. Thank you for making time to be with us here today for a very important topic. We're delighted to have Izzie Eriksen joining us today to lead the discussion from ApparelXchange, who's going to introduce herself a bit better in just a moment. But you may not know that Izzie was a huge part of the launch of SFS, so it's really nice to have her back with us to share what ApparelXchange have been up to since February 2020 when we launched, which was a long time ago now. So yeah, thank you for being here. I'll just very quickly introduce SFS and what we're the format of tonight for those who don't know. And in the meantime, if you'd like to say hello in the chat, maybe where you're from and what you do, that would be really nice, just so we can get a sense of who's all here. And of course, we will be hearing from some of you later as well. But for now, if you want to pop in the chat, just let us know where you're all from. That would be really lovely to hear from you. So the topic of tonight is how can we empower young people to be change makers? And this has been a really key part of our work at SFS. So if you don't know, Sustainable Fashion Scotland is a community-led non-profit, and our main mission is to connect the fashion community in Scotland and accelerate collective action for a sustainable fashion transformation. The community calls have been a really key part of our work. Every month we invite a practitioner or someone working in sustainable fashion to share their practice and open up a really friendly, informal discussion on what is working well in Scotland, maybe where some of the barriers or problems lie, as well as all of the solutions and things we can do to work on together to create positive change. So it's really important that we do get lots of people joining, a mix of perspectives, people that are really passionate about the topics, like all you that have joined today. So thank you again for being here. Just a couple of quick updates. At SFS, we have been refreshing our strategy, and we're in the mid of this process. As the world changes, we're changing too. Our team's capacity has been reduced a little bit. Lisa and myself have both been a bit ill with COVID and other things, but we're almost back to full health now. And we're also just both working on other things to do with sustainable fashion, which is exciting as well. We're working really hard to upload our past community call recordings and insights. If you do have any time or know anyone that could help with this, please give us a shout. We're hoping that these insights will be really helpful for people in the community to kind of gain an understanding of what's going on and also where some of the opportunities lie for collective action. They're quite text heavy right now because that's the language we work in. We're hoping to make these more visual in future so they'll be more accessible. But again, if you have any ideas on this, we're always open to hearing from you about them. So the format for tonight, we're going to hear from Izzie in just a moment, who's going to introduce herself and ApparelXchange and the topic that we're discussing tonight. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the chat. After Izzie is done with her initial presentation, we'll open the floor, open the room up. So you're very welcome to put your mic on, say hello, share your thoughts there. I think we always try to say, we're all learning from each other and we appreciate everyone's thoughts. No one's an expert. So, we're all experts in our own ways. So please feel free to share your thoughts, even if you feel like you're not an expert. That's what I was trying to say. We have the raise hand function if you've not used that in Zoom before. So in the bottom bar, if you click on reactions, you should see a button that says raise hand. So if you put that on, if you're not able to kind of get into the conversation, we'll try and make sure you get a chance to speak so that everyone can that wants to. Please do be considerate of making space for other people to speak, especially if it's someone that hasn't already. I know we can all be very passionate, but it's nice to hear from everyone if they want to speak as well. The only other thing I think I'll say is we always send an email out after, so that'll probably be early next week with the kind of unedited recording link if you want to watch back any resources that have been mentioned during the night. So don't worry if you miss something, we can send that over after. And there's also a live transcript option available. So I think it's in the bottom bar as well. It says live transcript and you should be able to get that working. It's not the most accurate, but it's a step in the right direction. So feel free to give that a go if you'd like to. And I think that's everything from me. As I said, we are recording, so this will be public, but just message me after if you slip any secrets. That's totally fine. But I'm going to pass over to Izzie now. So thank you for being with us, Izzie. Looking forward to the topic on how can we empower young people to be change makers. Thanks.
Mary, thanks, and Lisa, thanks so much. It's really great to be here this evening, particularly on this topic, because I think, you know, we're all activists in our own right. We're all doing an awful lot to kind of slow climate change down and enable people to play a really powerful role in the change that we all want. But it's sometimes, you know, when we work in isolation, we think, well, what change are we actually achieving? So it's great to sort of share what we do and share it with others and see what they're doing as well. So I'm hopefully not going to be talking for too long. I'd sort of said 10 to 15 minutes to Mary and Lisa, just because I didn't really want it to be just all about what we were doing and my voice. It's a bit sort of, you know, it'll be enough after a while. Anyway, I've got some slides. That'll keep me on track. And then hopefully the main body of this will be the conversation we all have. So great to see some familiar faces too. Some people I haven't seen in a while, so great to see you. Right, so I just need to find the right screen. Can you guys all see that? Yeah, a few nods, fab. All right, so it's going to feel like a little bit of a whistle-stop tour. So really the way we think about the work we do to enable young people to think about the role that they can play, we kind of talk around knowledge is empowerment. This was kind of our mantra very early on in establishing ourselves that, you know, if you know something, you can't really unknow it. And if you know something, you can do something about it. So when we set out to sort of revolutionize and school uniform and the use of school uniform, because that's where we originated, we said, right, everyone needs to understand why they need to do this. You know, this isn't about being told what to do by a brand or by a retailer. This is about understanding the role that you can play. So it's knowledge is empowerment in our eyes. And as a social enterprise, you know, when you're balancing all of the different policy outcomes that you're delivering on, it's actually, it doesn't make it more complicated, but it's something you're always having to deliver on too, you know. So it's another string to the bow. It's another thing to deliver on. If you aren't familiar with who we are, we're a social circular enterprise. So the reason why we combine the social and the circular is the social mission at the heart of ApparelXchange is about that inclusion and the enabling of everyone from every community to be a part of climate activism and making different choices. And it's also the environmental side, because of what we're really doing is we're diverting all of that good children's clothing away from landfill and away from export markets and seeing it circulated locally in Glasgow and then more broadly in the UK. As I said, we kind of combine that with the educational side as well. We recently just developed this slide really for engaging more strategic stakeholders, but I wanted to share it tonight because it kind of really enhances the point that the social circular economy does an awful lot. You know, we do deliver against kind of 5 major policy areas. And one of the big changes we need to see is you know, politicians, policymakers, etc., sort of recognize that, as well as local authorities and education departments. They get it, but is there a value put to that? And when you think about this kind of being a solution that touches on all of those areas, I think far more value will be put to organizations like ours, and will be seen and be integrated far more within our communities and local authority services. So a couple of development areas, just so you understand, we're not just about reuse and pre-loved and resale and re-commerce, but we've developed an adapted clothing service that Shirley, who's on the call, has been a part of, and a little bit of a slow start, but we're getting there slowly. So Shirley, I owe you a call because we've got another family who are going to work with us. We're developing, working with retailers and brands as well, and we've also got a membership model which is almost like a shared library for young people, covering kind of uniform and casual wear. So we're looking for investment and delivery of that later this financial year. And of course, a big part of that is what we describe as our behaviour change strategy. So it's not, we don't just engage with young people, it's also about engaging with the families and the wider community as well. So we have different threads and kind of work streams around all of that. but focusing really on kind of young people. So one of the outcomes that we look for from our work is, that we're empowering young people with knowledge, and that the knowledge, the motivation, and the skills to make more sustainable clothing choices. And we do that in a number of ways. So we do awareness sessions and sewing in primary schools. We do spotlight sessions for teachers, so we engage with professionals and educators with the resources that we've developed so they can go and deliver that themselves. We've just recently started working with a high school in Clydebank, so we're developing a bespoke program with them. We've been working with developing young workforce over COP26, and Siobhan's on the call as well, and ACS are a big part of that program, as were SFS as well, and Repair What You Wear as well. So great to see so many brilliant people on the call. And sorry if I didn't mention you were involved. And it's really key to all of this is not just, it's making the action that we need people to take accessible. So it's really kind of combining that awareness with what we do on the day-to-day, which is about the reuse and the recycling, or the reuse and the repair, or the reuse and buying secondhand, or swapping or sharing. Just sort of throwing ourselves straight into a couple of the slides that we use in primary school. We don't shy away from the fact that, this is a class for a P6-7 really, and we cover the whole clothing supply chain, and we use imagery like this so that it really brings people's imagination alive and their understanding of the process, that where clothing starts and what it looks like just before you buy it, and then it goes in a bag and you take it home and wear it. And the fact that it's such a complex and global supply chain is something that we really kind of push to young people, so they kind of understand what it takes to make clothing. So that's kind of a big part of our message. We don't hide from any of the issues. We don't say, oh, it's we talk about child labor within that. We talk about the terrible conditions that people work within. Because even though these are kind of shocking facts for 6-7-year-olds, it's quite impressionable to them, and actually this is where they start to make choices and they take that message home to their families. We also make sure that people kind of, and part of the DYW work, actually developing young workforce work, was actually really communicating both with politicians but also with young people about the opportunities and green jobs. And so we kind of look through how people can imagine working within the social economy, circular economy, or within responsible business as well. And so these are kind of the different aspects of kind of economic development that we were thinking about, and obviously where they might see their career paths going as well. It's a slight aside, but suffice to say that that kind of conversation with young people and setting an ambition about how they can work within this isn't a message I had at school in the 80s and the 90s, which shows how old I am. You'll see more and more of this, people understanding how they can be involved, young people understanding how they can be part of that change in their careers as well. So a big part of the message with it for young people as well is for them to understand what they can do for change. So, whether they buy secondhand, where they donate, putting their name in their uniform and their PE kit so they don't actually lose it. So what we were trying to do here was really communicate what they can do to be a part of the change. A lot of young people sort of feel or might feel that they can't be as influential as they would want to be, but actually there's a huge amount that they can do, whether it's in their family lives or with friends and peers. And this was very much messages kind of directed at primary school age as well. So. And then finally, Repair What You Wear, you're on the phone, you're on the call tonight, which is great. We've done a lot of engagement with Roz specifically rather than yourself, but we would use a video tutorial on how to sew a button on, and we would use that in the classroom. And it was great to be able to share those resources with schools to carry on using as well. So it's been great to sort of collaborate with great organisations on the delivery too. So in time for COP26, we developed our schools resource pack, which was quite a detailed approach to how to teach kind of for learning activities and resources for teachers in both primary and secondary school if they didn't really have any point of reference. We didn't talk about let's, rip everything up that's been done and start again. So really it's kind of a pack that references a lot of materials that are already live. So it's got the Fashion Revolution materials in it. Labour behind the labor, Labour behind the label, and I'll need to kind of have a quick look at it so I can give you the rundown. We've got Repair What You Wear, Scotland's Enterprising Schools, Sustainable Kirriemuir, Edinburgh Uni, BBC Northern Ireland, Walton Wills Centre, all have fabulous kind of resources for teachers to access. And then what we did is we said, well, okay, there's all these great resources, but we want to give you something to deliver in the class. So for a primary school age, we basically the brief was that they developed posters and messages that would go around the school, and they would almost like create a pledge where as a class or as a whole school, they would create a pledge that would mean that they were consuming less clothing and taking their action. It had problem-solving tasks in it, creative tasks in it, and we engaged a lot with Scotland's Enterprising Schools to make sure that we met all the learning outcomes as well. So we thought really deeply about making sure it was easy for a teacher to use, it was kind of a lesson plan, and that they could go deliver on that. And then there was kind of a deep dive, so you could kind of decide as an educator if you wanted to look at it, take the first step with us and say, this is a great idea. I can take the lead on this and deliver it with my pupils and very much have it as a pupil-led activity, or whether you kind of wanted a little bit more of a deeper dive into the implementation. And then we've kind of provided a lot more detail around that. And then the secondary school one was about delivering on a marketing campaign. So, we kind of sat there and said, well, look, who knows how to teach, or who knows how to influence teenagers better than anyone? And it's other teenagers, they're very influential over each other. And so we kind of pulled together sort of a work pack where they developed their own marketing campaign that would kind of go out within the school, and they would deliver on that in the school. Because what we were saying is it's great doing one class, but actually what you need to do is something that's sustained and carried on throughout the school as well. So I need to change my slide here. Sorry, I was just kind of flicking a little bit. Right. Okay, there we go. So this is an example of a high school that we're actually working with up in Clydebank. So this program starts as of kind of next Thursday. We've been really fortunate because we've had some funding from Glasgow Uni. They've got a neighbourhood learning project that's paid for us to do a bit of the work, and that's being matched by the school as well. So that's a really important part of what we've tried to do is to put a value to us going in and delivering on the work. It's kind of a 5-week program, and there's a group of kind of S1, S2s through to S5s who are really driven by making a change around clothing. So this is probably what we'll be delivering on with them. So it's kind of an integrated, sustainable uniform system that we'll be developing with them. Again, this kind of idea of a school-wide campaign and action that can be taken. We'll be facilitating and supporting a blazer exchange. So bring in a blazer and take one away, and we'll be managing that online as well over the summer holidays. When the school's shut, they can still get access to that while online, which is great. And then when they come back in the new term, we'll be looking to establish kind of a repair club with them. So we'll bring in some repair experts, and I won't be doing that. I'm not very good. I do a wee bit of sewing, but I'm not very good. So know your strengths, and we'll look to deliver that for a couple of weeks and see how that sort of self-perpetuates within the school. So, there was kind of this question about creating activists for the future. Well, we've kind of talked about providing information and opportunity for learning, but it's also really important to understand and evaluate what we've done. So it's easy for us to collect statistics about how many schools we've engaged in Glasgow, Scotland, and across the UK, how many educational sessions we've delivered on, or or how many teachers have accessed our resources, or how many community-facing sessions that we've delivered on, or even how many individuals we've engaged in all of the years that we've been operating. But what we really need to understand is the impact that that's had. I mean, before we kind of go into those kind of challenges of understanding whether it's changing people's behavior or people are making lifestyle choices around this, really wanted to sort of just focus a little bit on some of the really positive outcomes that we've seen through the delivery of this work. So, you know, and Repair What You Wear have always, and particularly ROS, have really emphasized the importance of people learning manual skills. And we've had a few discussions about some of these great outcomes that, you know, kids in classes really need to start using their hands and be really creative with their hands. So when we teach them to repair, it's the kids who can't sit down in the class and listen to anyone talking to them who are absolute geniuses at, you know, fixing buttons and fixing clothing and things like that. So, you know, this combination of learning and learning these practical skills, which are going to stay with them for life, absolutely has been such a positive outcome so far of the work that we've done. Also, within the learning environment, we've seen an awful lot of peer-to-peer support. So where the strengths of young people's understanding, they've been very quick to help their, you know, their pupils and their colleagues. I was going to say colleagues, that's very worky, sorry. You know, their friends in the class and everything learn from each other. And that is, again, you know, it's absolutely beautiful to see young people supporting other young people to learn and understand the concepts and learn the skills and, you know, really enjoy seeing that, because they're helping each other and are taking responsibility for each other and supporting each other. There's always an absolutely energized discussion. There's a bit of that shock that we talked about earlier. There's a little bit of that, oh my goodness, you know, that's awful. I wouldn't like that. I feel very lucky. There's, you know, but there's also this real sense of, well, what can I do about it? And that's hugely encouraging. So however, there are some challenges. You know, as I said, you know, we can go into a school and we can do this once, but really, are we really changing behavior? Are we really making a massive difference? And so one of the things we really need to get to as a social economy organization, as I said earlier, the value of what we deliver on, not just from the influence that we can have and the support we can have to young people to think differently and do differently and be a leader and a champion and everything, climate change and social inclusion. But, you know, there needs to be that real value put to organizations like ours who are delivering on that. And I think, you know, we're just not mainstreamed. We need to find that place in the curriculum. And we also aren't just a one-hit wonder. You know, we absolutely need the schools that we work with, because we're particularly focused around schools, to really integrate either ourselves or the principles and the values that we take through the work that we do. Doesn't mean a lot of schools aren't doing it already, by the way. They've got a busy job, so I'm not suggesting they don't have enough on their plate already. So that's the end of me talking. I've definitely overshot 15 minutes, but there's a couple of questions really to open up the discussion. So the first one that we thought would be quite useful was just about you guys sharing your positive experiences and the work that you do in terms of that behavior change. And then just so you know where the next one's going, we'll flick back in a minute. Is what more do we need to do to integrate the change that we need as well. So I'm gonna be quiet and let you guys speak.
So I'd say thank you, Izzie, for sharing that. And yeah, if anyone would like to jump in and share about your own experiences and what's worked well for you, or who you are and what you do, even to kick us off, please feel free.
Hi, I couldn't find the raising hand here. Where is that? But just wanted to say hi and thank Izzie. And it's great to hear, you know, so much connection between us. And I know that Roz usually has been in touch, but I took over tonight. And yeah, it's just great to hear that so much similarity, really. And it makes me feel that we're not alone, because a lot of the times you feel like, oh, you have this mountain that you have to climb and convince schools, convince, politicians, and we make resources, as you know, all the time, curriculums for schools and different projects for them to take over to their classes, even, guidance for them to how to change them, whichever they want. But as you said, they already have a lot on their plate, especially during COVID. They've been very, very busy, and the staff absences and, sick leaves and this and that. A lot of them say, oh, it's great. Yes, it's amazing, but they really don't have the time and energy to take over. But we've had successful visits to some schools. We already have some which are planned ahead. So next few weeks we'll do that. Some of them really keen to work with us, kind of like collaboration. So for us to visit them regularly until, they can implement this workshops in their classes, which is great. But there is a shortage of textile teachers, which they can deliver our workshops or what we provided as curriculum. So that can be a challenge. Some of the teachers that they teach home economy, they don't even have the hand skills themselves. And that kind of puts them off, or they only can do that specific project, which is usually craft, not repair, and it's not a life skill. It's just a mini craft project that really pupils cannot implement that in really repairing things. For example, they're making this ornament for Christmas. They learn some sort of stitch, but they cannot repair their own clothes with it, or they only use sewing machine, for example. So, but yeah, to feel that we're on this together, it's amazing, and we definitely can help each other out. Yeah, I'll come along later if I hear anything. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Ellie. Corinne, do you want to go next, and then Emma? Thank you.
Hi, I've got a couple of things. I'll just pick up on the point that was just made there. I teach textiles at Glasgow Clyde College, and for the past few years we've had a link up with Strathclyde Uni, where students will come to us, they will complete their HND, and then they will move into kind of the final 2 years of teaching to then become the home economics teacher. And what you're saying is totally right. I've been involved in lots of projects where home economics teachers they're encouraged to do the whole cooking part, but the textile part not so much. So just for the past 2 or 3 years, one of the units that we run in college, it's visible mending and repair skills. So hopefully in the next few years there are a cohort of students that should be at Strathclyde Uni that do know a lot more kind of repair and textile skills. So that's something that we're kind of trying to address at college level as well. The other thing I was just wanted to talk about was just a really positive experience that has happened. Obviously I've got college level, they're kind of 17, 18, 19 and above, so they're a bit older than the age group that ApparelXchange have been dealing with. But for the past 3 years within a professional design practice unit, we have the first task that we set them is to do a wardrobe analysis, where they have to go and photograph their wardrobe, set out the subsections of their wardrobe, and kind of put a number to each type of item that they have in their wardrobe. And then we get them to check the label, check where it's been made, what the content and the garment is. And the amount of them that have come back absolutely shocked, just that the sheer number of clothes that they have, that they didn't have a clue where it was made, they didn't have a clue whether it was a synthetic or a natural fibre. And there's some that, from the shock of that, have gone away and massively changed their lifestyle. I've got a student, Peter, who does sometimes join the calls, but he'd gone away and just basically decided he was buying everything second hand. He turned vegan, and this was literally from one lesson. So although I know you're saying like you need to kind of keep educating, but sometimes it's like it does only take the shock from one lesson, and then that's got an amazing knock-on effect. So certainly I've been absolutely delighted at the amount of students that have had this shock, and they have implemented much more positive change. So yeah, just to say one lesson can make a huge difference. So yeah, well done. Keep up the hard work.
I know, I think it's that, it is the shock, isn't it? And it's getting people over the paralysis, isn't it, of, oh my goodness, this is horrendous, because it's like that, you know, I think the shock, the fear, the hate, oh, I don't like what I'm doing. And then you take you stop, and then you take the action, and and it's just making sure people don't get stuck in the fear of change, or in the, oh, what can I do to change it? Because I think that's a big part of where a lot of the climate anxiety comes from, or the feeling of helplessness, or what difference can I make? But if we all make a small change, if we all make a difference, we all start to see things change. So that's a really, really great to hear back as well. I mean, it really knocks people sideways, doesn't it? Very kind of persuasive, you know, that real truth of the matter. And I think we can't hide that away from young people. You know, it's awful, but we can't hide the truth, the reality away, because no one will take responsibility if they don't understand it. And ultimately, that's what we want them to do, you know? Yeah, sorry. I should go on mute, shouldn't I? I'll put myself on mute.
No, not at all. Emma, would you like to say hello next?
Hi. I was just going to speak about an experience that I had with our local high school. I live in Langham in Dumfries and Galloway, and we got contacted if we could produce 30 aprons for home economics. And I kind of flipped it around and said, actually, well, why don't we come into the school and the young people can make their own aprons? And it was a really positive experience. That all of them at the end were super chuffed that they'd produced this apron. Some were obviously rough around the edges, but they did it. It was a functional apron. We tried to have a little worksheet at the end. We got a few filled in, but it was about, so if the fabric was £5 a meter and you use so many meters, and the strap was so many meters, and your time, how much would this apron have cost to make? And if you were wanting to do it as a business and make a profit, how much would you have to sell it for, etc. Just to try and get them thinking about how things are priced, and why things that they potentially buy are really underpriced. And yeah, they were all really enthused by the project, and I'd hoped that if they were making it themselves, they'd have a bit of pride about the apron. It wasn't just given to them. It wasn't just a thing that they received. It was something that they created. Some of them said they wouldn't wear it, but that's fine. They're just teenagers. So, but it was a really positive experience. But it did open my eyes to how much fine motor skills have really, really struggled in that age group. So that was S1s. And I know that everybody struggled during COVID, but I think that transition from primary school to secondary school, the children have really lost out on quite a lot of key skills. So it is quite shocking that some of them can use a pair of scissors or pin fabric and things like threading the needle, which is where like Repair What You Wear come in. Like I've watched a couple of Ros's tutorials about how to go right back to basics, so that's really helped. But yeah, it set us on the path to create more workshops for young people. We've got an after school club now, which is attended by children who want to be there, which is a nicer nicer group, because they all enjoy it. instead of trying to get teenagers to do something that they don't want to do. But yeah, we're doing a summer project that hopefully we'll get some funding for, that will do, well, it's going to be like a fashion sustainability school twice a week for the 7 weeks. So we're going to be doing all sorts, like the list of what we're doing week by week is, well, I'm really excited. I want to do it all, but I'm hoping it'll get quite a lot of young people involved. And also doing a TOTS textile course, which is once a week, and that's aimed at 5-year-olds to 8-year-olds, and doing a bit more simpler things. Because our son, he's nearly 4 in July, and because he's always been surrounded by fabric, because that's what we do, he just picks up a needle and thread and just in and out, no problem. But it's not something that every day, like, children will have access to if they don't have like a parent who sews, or a granny who knits or something like that. It's not something that they would naturally see in the house. So.
And I think, Emma, just on that last point, and sorry to respond, I mean, you know, kids can do so much. You just need to give them the opportunity and the space and the room to do it. And so many children they're not going to thrive at school and being sat at a desk, but we're not giving them the opportunity to be creative and use their hands, you know. And everyone says, you know, kids learn through using their hands. We all learn through using our hands and being practical and things. So we really need to either shake it up in terms of the curriculum right now, which I know many of us are trying to do, or we just need to make sure those opportunities exist and everyone gets a chance to access them. So yeah, but we should connect. Well, I should connect with you all in a little bit more detail, to be honest, but we'll definitely connect and share some stuff. It would be great.
Thank you, Emma. It's great to hear about the summer school as well, and just all the work you're doing in creation. It's very exciting. And yeah, I think, the last call we had, there was talk about maybe making like working groups for specific areas, which Emma, you're also there, so you're going to be in all of them, I think. But maybe education's one, or, you know, we can definitely look into that. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Joseph, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, hi there. I just want to make a quick point that really resonated from when you were talking there about the measuring of impact. So we find that a challenge as well, because you want to give it that meaningful measure. And I actually found it really refreshing to go, yes, the number of schools and the number of young people that have gone through, because we use the similar things and they're important, but there's that layer that's beneath that, that's just like, what even is that, you know? And I think for us, we're kind of exploring that thing of we find it's those individual stories as well. So that it's the stories that sort of put it into that context and give it that reality. But the other word you were using about influence. So if we, you know, say 100 people come through and one of those does actually change, and these things happen, you know, one of them changes, then they're talking to their friends about it. Like that, the power's going out that way. But yeah, I guess it's more, I just found it refreshing you were talking about that, because I don't think that we do it. I think we kind of can, it's not hide behind, because we don't know how else to measure it, but the amount of people through doesn't really give us it's an indicator. But yeah, whatever that thing is at the other side, it'd be really nice if there was a mutual appreciation of that's really hard to measure. You know, you don't know what's going to go on 2 years down the line. So I just wanted to make that quick point that it was great to hear you talking in that way, and that we face a similar situation with that.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because in a way, you know, as an ethical organization, if we want to make claims about empowering young people with knowledge and giving them what they need to change, how do we back that up? How are we evaluating what we're doing? And numbers aren't enough. They're just not enough. You know, you need that qualitative evidence, don't you? You need to be doing the interviews with the kids in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. You know, you need the example that Corinne had, and that takes time and effort and resource, whatever that resource looks like. And so, you know, I think, you know, for a policy maker, whether that's central or local government or someone in a department within a local authority or wherever that might be, and I'm not bashing anyone here. This isn't a sausage, I hate this term, but a sausage factory. This isn't just about, getting the numbers and getting the qualifications. This is about, people who really understand their value. And, we always say this when we go into a class, you can do everything you want to do with your life. You have so much power and influence, and you can be change. And then you can see that young person going, oh, what, me? That sort of self-realization. We've got a moth in my hair. That's not good for my clothes. Anyway, so I won't kill it. I'll liberate it. And so it's kind of, what do you do with that? And we're just really now at that point where, those stats are great. So isn't that wonderful? But we really need to find out what's actually happening. We want to go back to the schools we've started working with, and that's why that thing with St. Peter's of Apostle and the influencing that peers can do to peers is that really shifts a whole mindset, so what's good with the St. Peter's of Apostle is the uni wants, we've discussed getting data. We'll gather data throughout the delivery, and they have money and resource to evaluate that program at the end as well. So it's quite good that it's not on us, but we're really starting to capture how we get that generation and generations before it come in and after it, see what's working. So yeah, it's good to talk. We can always catch up about that, because
I'd like to thank you.
I think impact is definitely something, we definitely struggle with at SFS too, on how to do it, especially when it's a lot about well-being, and we can say how many people came to an event, but we might have 100 people at an event and no one listens. You might have 10 people at an event and all of them go off and work together on an amazing project. So it's a tricky one, but there's people working on that as well, so that's good to know, and good to know where the conversations are happening. Siobhan, would you like to say hello?
Hello, I've got a wee bit of cold, so I wasn't too sure if my voice was going to come out, but it's working. It's really fascinating to hear everyone's working so many commonalities throughout it all. I think one that's really stuck with me when we've ran anything is I think we doubt how much young people do actually know, because a lot of time when I'm showing shocking material, I'm like, is this okay to be showing for this age range? But a lot of young people are coming to us with fear about the planet, the living crisis, so many things already. So it is already such a heavy time they're growing up in. They are already aware of these things, and it's kind of turning it into a more positive message or a fun activity. Yes, this is scary, but this is what you can do with it. With all your guys' work, I know that's what you do, make something creative or something enjoyable that they can do with it. And that's what I always try and do at ACS as well. I want to talk about something I'm really excited about that we're running at ACS at the moment. So I don't know if people have seen Fashion Revolution's Textile Garden. I know they've put some more photos out today and yesterday of it actually all flourished, but I was so inspired by that, and we're working on a biodiversity bubble at the moment with schools. And I was like, we need this because it's directly linked to the fashion industry as well. So I'm trying to replicate something a lot of the stuff with food is very similar. We can be very inspired by the food movement with the textile movement as well. So I was trying to think the farm to plate, kind of garden to garment kind of thing. So we're going to build a textile garden at ACS and actually work with young people on it. So getting them, we've got an ASN school going to be designing the posters for the flowers that will go on the bed saying what they are, and we're going to get schools out to actually plant them, and then this will be used further to do. So I don't know if you guys know, well, at least it was you that introduced me to India from Wild Hues. So she worked with us. She was an architect before as well. So she used her architecture skills and her textile dyeing skills to plan the textile garden. And we actually have flowers that we can use for dyes in there as well as well as ones that have been used for fabrics. So the plan is with this is to use it for workshops. Once it's all set up and growing, trying to get that hands-on learning again. But going back to the main point as well, I just got very excited about the idea to tell everyone. What I find with schools, it's great to like, with young people coming out, it's great to inspire them, and it has made the change. And with measuring it, we've had the numbers part as well, but it's mainly the stories or what they've gone back to their school with. And many of them came back to us like, we want to set up a swap shop at our school, we want to set up a repairs section at our school. And it's kind of finding the resources that can support them to do that if they can't do it within their own school as well, if they are wanting to make that change. But hopefully if we come together as a group, like we've got enough skills amongst all of us to do that as well.
Thank you, Siobhan. That's really good to hear. Love. It's nice to know the connection with India's blossomed into something
It's
exciting.
really
Maybe
good.
we can have a textile garden take over the whole Scotland or something. That would be exciting.
That's same.
Yeah. And it's nice to hear as well about, because obviously, I don't know, you didn't say, but you work in events at ACS, right, and focusing on sustainability. And you've done a lot.
Yeah,
of
but
work.
then I get very excited about little passion projects on the side as well. There might be events in the textile garden, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, educational events do a down close, so.
I think workshops count as events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to hear people are after those, coming back and saying we want to set this up in our own school and how can we do that. So yeah, it's amazing to hear. And like you said, being able to inspire them and like this is an action you could take is really important. Thank you for sharing. Charlie, would you like to say hello? Lovely to see you.
Yeah, thanks. I feel a bit of an outsider here, but listening to all that's going on in schools now, it's very inspiring, and I'm really glad to hear that because this has been missing from schools for a long time. Speaking as someone who's now retired, but have lots and lots of skills that I'm happy to share and use, but I'm not really doing anything very much at the moment. I'm just wondering if there's anything that we outsiders here in the community can get involved in what you're doing. You say that a lot of your teachers don't have the necessary sewing skills, but there are lots of mums and grandmas and people I'm sure out there who maybe have got some sort of way of, I don't know how to do it because I know there's problems with contacting schools and children and all the rest of it. I'm simply just waving a flag to say there are a lot of folk out here with lots of skills. Some of us have even got a background in education. So can we be helpful? Is there any way that we can help you out to pass on this important information and skills to the youngsters? That's all.
Well, Shirley, we've already done a bit of work together, and we've got the adapted clothing service, which, like I referenced earlier, I need to bring you about pretty soon. But yeah, it is that capacity. Certainly our experience of engaging with schools as a kind of an independent social circular business is kind of getting into the school and building that relationship of trust as a non-parent, as not part of that immediate school. And we've had quite a lot of support over this from the city council, and that's growing and growing, and it's taken a long time to develop that relationship of trust and be seen as a credible organisation for them to recommend into primary and secondary schools. But ultimately we're limited by our capacity, so having a team and of people like yourself and others who are completely skilled, who can go in and help deliver on it. You still have the challenge of that getting sort of put into the curriculum, have been seen as a value within the curriculum. And when we developed a couple of longer term programs pre-COVID, like to go in to set up their own social enterprise around clothing reuse, with us kind of in the background supporting it, you just can't get enough time to deliver on it. So we have the capacity maybe in the broader community, but it's getting into the school and getting the school to create time for that. But so after school clubs are maybe easier at high school age, and it's more autonomy. The older kids are kind of able to sort of determine whether they go home at 3:45 or 5:45 when they've done a repair club or whatever. So but yeah, we can pick up on that because we're just getting more and more demand actually, and it's generally myself that delivers on it. So I would love to have a team, and we're charging as well. So we've started charging schools for it, and they're very happy to do that. So when I mentioned value earlier, you know, it's not about leaning on micro businesses, essentially like apparel. You know, they've got to put, the local authority has to put a value to what we do in our time and our knowledge. So yeah, so we've been quite firm about them paying for us to go in as well, and they're prepared to pay it, which is good. It's not a lot, but they're prepared to pay it. So we'll have to follow up on that, Shirley. You can become my right-hand woman. You can become the woman that does. That would be great. We can pay you. So there we go.
Ellie, would you like to jump in?
Yes, I just wanted to say that you probably know, but we usually do Mending Mentors sessions online, which is just inviting people who probably forgot the skills. Some of them, they don't have the confidence. They do have the skills, but they just want to learn how to do this step by step and how to teach, you know, really core mending skills to others. And they usually just do just learn it to deliver it to community. They maybe have repair groups in their local cafe, their local community center. We sometimes ourselves, we have groups in a swap shop in Aberdeen. So people come swap their clothes, and sometimes they get advice on how to change it, or how to maybe repair it or upcycle it, or they even bring their own clothes that they already have to get advice, which is great, you know, to meet people. A lot of them are amazing people, really professional people, but really keen to save the environment. Yeah, I think, you know, these things can be done really in community and your local cafe, and just having a little poster there inviting people to come along to this in-person meetings or groups. And people are really keen to sit and really talk to each other and be in a group in person now after COVID. They really, they're missing that. So they really like to attend these. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear about the keenness for people to come together in person after COVID. I think we've noticed that as well. So it's something in our strategy refresh plans as well. Yeah, I think we're almost at the 1/2 mark, which is usually when we wrap up, and then we stay on for like 20-25 minutes for more, you know, if anyone wants, we can continue to chat, but if you need to go, that's totally fine. I know, Izzie, you had the second question, which I feel like we've started talking about, you know, this idea of, well, what I find always interesting is, you know, you saying you do have great impact in the schools you go into, but we do need a way to make these interventions sustained and multiple, and that's why the curriculum change is so important, because it means that every child will receive that education, and it, you know, it will be a core part of that. It's not just if the teacher has an interest or the skills, but there are lots of other ways we can get in there right now, like after school clubs, even community gardens, and I know like with Girl Guiding's been mentioned in the chat. So like there are other places where we can intervene that might be a little bit easier, while we're also working on changing the curriculum and building up trust with schools and councils. So I think these all need to be going on at the same time, and we're all working on these different areas. So, you know, it all does build up together. I'm also just interested in, well, maybe there's a kind of network to be created where we can build that sort of recognition and reputation, and work with our local schools and make it really tangible for people in our local areas. And like Ellie was saying, you know, just having like even community groups like sewing kind of open for everyone to come along and learn together, and in person now too. So I guess that's a really good start on maybe what actually does need to change, or where we can take action right now. But I mean, I'm quite keen to stay on for another 20 minutes or so, so maybe we can continue, and if anyone does need to leave at 1/2, that's totally fine. We'll probably share, well, we'll maybe just share it now, Lisa, if you've got the wee feedback link. It's just 2 questions. We just ask if you have any comments on how we can make these calls better, or anything you liked in particular. If you're going to connect with anyone after this, really helps with our funding. We do have funding for these calls, but it's about to run out. So it would be great to have some, really nice feedback so we can pay more people in the community to share their practice and knowledge. But yeah, we can stay on for now. I don't know if Izzie, maybe if you want to add anything about, the second question, just to kind of open that up as well.
I'll just move it on, but I think you're right. We kind of started answering it, didn't we? So what more should be done? But I mean, this could be a massive conversation, And I know when we were talking about preparing for this, we really wanted to keep it really positive, because I know we've all been through those meetings, and quite a few of them where it's just like, oh, it's so broken and the system's broken and everything's bad, and in a way, I feel like we've all got that off our chest now. It's we've had the opportunity to share and explain how we feel about it and all those challenges. So it's what more can be done, really. What more can we do to integrate the change? And I think, when we talk about the work we do, everyone's been talking, not everyone, but we've all been talking about system change, and but if you really commit to what system change is, there is a Scottish government consultation out at the moment on school uniform and lowering the cost of school uniform, but it doesn't really cover off at the moment. I haven't looked at it in detail, but the environmental impact of uniform, it's all about the cost of the school day policy, rather than how to enable more reuse through a more generic, interchangeable school uniform, a more comfortable school uniform where kids can sit in the classroom and play. And also something that if they didn't, they were wearing it at the weekend out of necessity, it didn't look like they had the school trousers on, or the school skirt or whatever. So it's a classic example of where there's one kind of policy area being looked at, rather than looking at the whole system of uniform and everything that needs to change around it. So I think we all need to kind of lift ourselves back from a single issue or a single focus, and think about everything that needs to change within it. So probably everyone on this call takes that view and that approach already, but that's certainly where we're coming from, and it helps us articulate far clearer to people we want to influence what needs to change, and it's systemic, it's system change. But I'll put myself on mute.
Yeah, I'm writing a book chapter just now about systems change in fashion, so I'm writing some Scottish examples to promote us all, so I'll get that in there. Ellie, would you like to add to that? Oh, you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, just a quick comment about the school uniform, which I also realized that it's mostly, so for example, my son's school, they have swap shop, but the approach is, this is for those who cannot afford school uniform. So when I gave them my son's school uniform, they said, oh yes, thank you, we'll pass it on to those who cannot. But changing this mindset to, no, really all of us can use secondhand, and we should use secondhand, because why shouldn't we? And I started lecturing them right there, but yeah, a lot of schools have that mindset, and a lot of them, they just keep it, and people, because of this, people might be shy not to approach them, and they probably don't want to say, I cannot afford, can I have a uniform? So really changing it to, this is good for environment, and passing the message to parents in the school, which is amazing. I think it will make a big change. Yeah, sorry, I've been talking a lot.
Not at all, thank you for sharing. Is it Marsali? Sorry if I've said that wrong. Would you like to go next?
That's fine. It's Marsali. That's just been making me think. I've just been reading a book by Ursula de Castro about the stigma, like in the 20s, 30s, 40s. The wealthy enjoyed wearing luxury fabric, and the rest of us were mending our clothes. So have you found like there's still this kind of stigma of trying to push the reuse, rewear, upcycle, mend, where people aren't maybe engaging because there's this kind of subconscious stigma that's saying that, oh, well, that advertises that you're poor, which is exactly what you were saying about the school. Like if you're buying the second-hand clothes, you're the parent that can't afford to buy the new clothes. So how do you get that message across where actually buying the second-hand clothes is the cool thing to do and buying the new clothes isn't cool? And then it actually goes on to say that they're starting to see in data that weirdly that stigma is changing, so that when you're buying the fast fashion clothes in Primark, that's actually now saying that, you know, you can't afford luxury. Yeah.
Izzie, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I don't want to keep speaking. Does anyone else want to get in there? I don't know. Shall I just say a few things then? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really complex, isn't it? You know, because if you live or experience any level of poverty, you don't want to present like that. You want to wear branded clothing, branded trainers. You present that you're not living in poverty, basically. That's what you see across a lot of communities across the UK and across the world. You know, a lot of money spent on clothing and a look and an image that says I'm not living in poverty, and that's massive. And you know, I'm very middle class, I'm very white, I can afford choice, I can buy what I want to buy. I buy secondhand because I can afford choice, and I'm motivated that way. I've got choice. And it's just about trying to, I suppose, find a place where there isn't any shame associated with it, and it is completely normalized. And there are lots of ways of normalizing it, you know, that it's completely accepted in the school, and lots of schools have swap tables on a monthly basis, and lots of schools just give clothing out and the kids take it home, and it's quite discreet. But there's a lot to change there, and what we do collectively isn't the only part of that. You know, it's a far deeper societal problem around people's opportunities and, you know, I suppose, yeah, what they do and how they do it as well. So it's just it's too complex to think that this thing alone is going to change things. But actually, just, you know, when I suppose when I'm flipping that on its head in a positive way, back to the knowledge is empowerment. You know, we had a shop in the St. Enoch Centre for a couple of years, and we'd get lots of people from across the city go into it, and some people would come in and they would go, oh, is this secondhand? And walk out, you know. And some people would come in and they'd be like, oh, what's this all about? And then when we would explain, and they'd never really been in a shop like ours before, oh, you know, and from all communities across Glasgow. So it's this whole thing about, I think Siobhan was saying it earlier, about don't underestimate knowledge and motivation of young people. It's like some people just haven't really had the exposure, so they don't understand, and they've not been given the time to process it and think about it. So I think, you know, we just have to gently, relentlessly gently try and influence people, and don't be too righteous about it, and make sure it's inclusive. Because I think one of the things, you know, in the preparation and the lead up to COP was, you know, it's in our city, and that city isn't just about the delegates, that city isn't just about the people who know about why COP is there, it's about every resident. And a lot of talk about legacy. I'm not too sure what that legacy actually is in reality for every community in Glasgow, or whether they just had 2 weeks or 4 weeks of disruption and not being able to get on with normal life, you know. And that's the thing that I suppose we're trying to do, is just keeping it as accessible as possible, keeping the messaging accessible. We're not saying stop buying your Nike trainers because that's important to you. We're saying, you know, if do a little bit of that change, you know, go secondhand on one thing or two things, or, you know, do your food waste and your recycling and walk to school. Doesn't mean you're never going to drive. You know, there's it's all the changes to allow people to have that balance of the important things mixed with the I suppose, more sustainable options as well. So
yeah, because I think, like, I mean, you're just going to fight a losing battle if, you know, you're like, if it's black and white, because there's nothing wrong with Nike trainers. And I think one of the other things actually in your slide at the beginning with the raw materials, you know, how the clothes are made. And I was wondering, you know, the end point is buying the product, the item.
yeah.
And we don't really talk a lot about loving it, using it, which has been a lot in that chat. And, you know, great, buy your Nike trainers and use them.
Yeah.
Rather than have 5.
Yeah. I know, wear them and love them and look after them and keep wearing them and whiten them and whatever, you change the laces or, you know, do them up properly. Don't like wreck the backs because you don't tie your laces. That was me sounding like a parent then, wasn't it? But you know, they'll last longer.
Sorry, I'm on one now. I just stains on school uniforms, like my daughter's clothes. It just drives me nuts, like the sustainability on kids' clothes. I think you're really brave, because I'm like, I can't, like, it's just so big because they keep growing and their clothes are all stained. But my daughter's recently bought a bag, and she got like spray paint so that she could spray paint, like, you know, motifs on it. And I was just thinking, for school uniforms, you know, would that be a way to connect with kids if they were actually allowed to spray paint maybe the school logo on their white t-shirt?
Yeah, see how that goes down with your local authority. I don't know.
I'm just so like, I don't know anything about the local authorities. So.
I know, because I think when we've done various we did during I'm going to say the first lockdown, but, you know, the summer of, I think 2020, you know, where we were all completely locked down. We did a citywide kind of school uniform appeal, and then we did lots of packages, and we'd always gathered kind of design data around school uniforms and kind of engaged with some of the brands, saying, you know, particularly to M&S, who were sewing on sequins onto white polo necks because it was kind of a cute, pretty thing to do. It meant that the boys didn't want to wear them, and what do you do with the sequins at the end? And so we actually got some good response off a couple of the brands when we were saying, don't bother doing that, because that actually makes reuse even harder. And did you know that now I'm on the spot, I can't think of, but we had like a whole series of kind of design things actually stop putting buttons on you know, some of the polos, because they never do them up, and they can't undo them because they haven't got those manual skills. But argue we should say keep them on and do them up and undo them so you get those manual skills. But there was a whole bunch of things where school uniform just isn't designed for the kid to be in the classroom and then to be active in the playground and feel comfortable and be energetic and not be sweaty, you know. And but one of them was pockets on white shirts. It's still, why do they have a pocket, you know, on the white shirt? It just gets full of lint, and then someone sees it as a grey stain, and then it gets thrown. In a way, even a long sleeved shirt, you know, for school, have a short sleeve skirt, because all they do is drag their cuffs through the paint and the pen and the dinner, and actually they don't need it, you know, they don't need that long cuff. And so, you know, there's so many things. I mean, just ban those permanent markers out of the schools, because the number of pens marks that my kids have had on their polos is just insane, you know. So there's so many things they could do, and that's one part of what the consultation is probably going to touch on. It certainly will be when we respond to it. We're going to absolutely go to town on that, because we can't, you know, I suppose our experience is that consultations can't be single dimension. You know, we've got to get them thinking about everything that they can achieve with the outcome of the responses. And you're right. I mean, you know, kids and parents will not put their kid into school with any stains on their shirts. You know, I do, because, you know,
like, why not?
Well,
like,
that's
stains
it.
are okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could message that, but, like, you know, that would help.
Yeah.
I've heard from parents that they have, because they have to wash school uniforms every day, they have like 5 sets of them. But why do they wash them every day? I don't know. It's not necessary. If they're not stained all over, let's say, they don't need to be washed every day. But some people do.
Is that more of like the parents, like some kind of pressure? And I mean, I felt that on both sides. Sometimes I don't give a Scoobies what she looks like when she goes to school, and other times I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
I've
you've
gone
got
through
time
all
to worry
phases of
about it.
putting clothes on, clothes, presenting the perfect daughter, to now she just wears navy yoga pants.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm just like, she's got her school jumper and I use a damp cloth.
Yeah.
And she's got paint all over those long cloth sleeves, and I'm just like, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Do children care, or is it more the parents?
It's parents. Yeah, they want the children to be spotless. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's in S1. She kind of wears tights and everything, and she went out of the house in these tights. Goodness me, I was just like, why have you even got them on? Do you know what I mean? Because they were so laddered and holy, and I was a wee bit like, what are you doing? And then I was like, well, see, when you get back from school, you're not wearing them again, and we'll just get you some new tights. She's probably been through about 10, 12 pairs since this summer. You know, just think of all of that nylon, and you just think of even that as a waste, you know, like, but the uniform, she could wear trousers, but she likes wearing a skirt, and then, but she doesn't want to be bare-legged because, you know, she's kind of getting hairy legs. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that actually kind of just makes it, you know, you're thinking about that young person feeling confident and fitting in and wanting to just be kind of in amongst everybody else, but they've also got all of these other challenges and changes in their body about either being covered up or just wearing what everyone else is wearing. And it's really complex, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a massive advocate for uniform, but I do think wearing something similar at school is quite important, you know. But it's you know, it's quite a contentious issue. Some people love it. They want their kids in the blazers. They want that unity. But you start adding blazers into some school uniform policy, and it gets very expensive as well. So.
Yeah, I think my daughter's at a primary school that the blazer is kind of advocated. So she's just in primary 1, but there's lots of them in that class that actually love the blazer and they feel like really smart. So funnily enough, they had a dress down day today because it's the bank holiday weekend. But I've found that she has needed far less clothes since starting school, whereas when she was in nursery, I mean, she was coming home filthy and like in tatters like every single day, and it was, so I tend to kind of pile the washing up, so I'm not doing it every single day. But I think when she was in nursery, it was getting to the point of, right, she actually needs more clothes to get us through the sets of washing, whereas when she's been in school and it is the set uniform, she's needed far less amounts of clothing. She's just needed something for like a Saturday morning for a sports club, and then something nice to wear the rest of the weekend. Whereas I felt when she was a wee bit smaller, yeah, far more was required. So I've actually found it's been a kind of better shift since the uniform's been introduced, which is probably against what loads of people say, but yeah, that's just been my perspective.
It's really practical. It probably takes, I'm guessing you'll know this more than me, Izzie, that peer pressure, like if you don't have a school uniform and then you're going into school wearing whatever you want, then I couldn't actually even cope with the different phases that my daughter would go through.
Yeah, I think funnily enough, the first time that they had a dress down day, there was other like mums in the kind of group chat thing, like so stressed out because their child was like, oh, I want to wear this, oh, I don't want to wear that. they were putting things on in the morning and it no longer fitted because they hadn't had it on for weeks, and they were like, oh my God, this is so stressful, just send them in the uniform and it makes it a whole lot easier. So yeah, I think the uniform thing's quite funny, because I think there can be kind of extreme views in both directions with the uniform.
And some kids, because it's school, so they just want to wear the uniform because that's what they wear to school and that's part of their routine and the association of that space. And so some kids will continue to wear the uniform, and their parents, whether it's their desire or the parents' desire or both or whatever, they'll go in. And you see that a bit in the school that we're at. They're not interested in wearing their home clothes at school. So even that's kind of a dynamic which kind of supports in a way the hassle of the thinking about what to wear, or maybe some of the cultural, norms that we all have, about traditional dress, or what would you wear, or what's your wardrobe like, or, I mean, it does serve a purpose, doesn't it? It's meant to be an equalizer. Everyone looks the same, but it's quite a variety of views and opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I just add one more thing, which is a good friend of mine who has a little girl. She is quite annoyed because the uniform kind of separate sexes. So girls have to wear a skirt. They cannot wear trousers, but they might like to wear trousers. Not that they cannot, but it's not common. So she was like, well, why can't she wear trousers and a polo shirt? She might like that. And so that was another opinion that came across.
That's what my daughter does. She's 11, and about 2 years ago, she was like, why do I need to wear a skirt? I can't do a cartwheel. I want, and little girls, they want to run around and do cartwheels. And it's like, yeah, right, that's such a good point. So yeah, she just wears navy yoga trousers that I found. And the school fortunately didn't say anything.
Okay.
That's
you
good.
get kind of a nice soft jersey trouser, so they'll probably just, but I just think a lot of schools as well aren't as bothered by it because they've got a big job, and why are they spending their time sorting out the school uniform policy? It's not really that important when it comes to kids being happy and enjoying school and learning and being active. I mean, I think there's just there's a different mentality in a lot of schools now that, uniform's important, but it's not more important than the kid being happy in the classroom or having friends or being creative or learning or participating in a good way, that it's because from first-hand experience with my son, who took about 4 years for him to actually settle down in school, uniform was really not a big issue. Just getting him happy in school was all we needed. So on the scale of 1 to 10, kids being happy and wanting to be in the school and learning or doing what they're doing and having a good time is the most important thing.
Definitely.
So there we go.
Izzie, the consultation you mentioned, is there any way, how can people contribute to that, or can we help you at all with your input?
What I'm going to do is let me stop sharing the screen. There was another slide on just on the sustainable fashion quarter stuff, but let's what do we not? Oh, have I unshared? Have I stopped sharing?
I stopped sharing it a while ago just so we can
did you? Great. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll just find the link to the consultation.
We can share that in the email.
We can put it in, but actually what we might do in preparation for that is put out a call and ask people, and we'll do an accumulated response, because often these things are quite big and hefty, and actually, sitting down for an hour to fill in your own version isn't always that easy. But sending back a shared response.
Yeah.
Right, let me find, I found what I need to, so I will put this into, yeah, okay, this is good. Okay, so I'll put this into the chat.
And we're happy to help share it as well if you once you put a call out, or if you need any help with that.
Yeah, no, that would be great. That would be great. I mean, it's open till October, which is actually
cool.
A long time. May, June, July, August, September. Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 months. That's an awful long time actually for a consultation. They're normally only about 3, so if that. So, but that's all right. More time for us to get ourselves organised.
Yeah.
Do a massive survey. Anyway, so there we go.
Yeah, it's been, thank you so much for coming. I might wrap up there. I've got to go have my dinner, but it's been really nice to hear and just hear some more stories at the end there as well. Lots to think about. But I think it's been a very good positive discussion. It's been really nice to hear like what everyone's doing and how many people are interested to, you know, collaborate and make more connections and work together. But does anyone have anything to add just before we go over? Cool. And thank you so much all for staying as well, just to chat a little bit longer. It's really nice.
No, that was, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thanks, bye.